Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Objective, and we're going to be talking about just how low can we sink in regards to politics. I'm here with two upstanding gentlemen who they don't sink very low at all, but we're going to try to wrap our minds around how low people sink. Please leave a like, super chat, and hit that join button to become a member. I'm here with a guy who let's hope he never plays Mr. Fetterman. It's Mark Pellegrino.
What's up, Rucka?
And we've got a guy who, I could sort of see him with the right angle and lighting playing Herschel Walker someday. It's Nikos Sotirakopoulos.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, man, I think it would be interesting to play Fetterman. He's a Harvard grad, came from a well-to-do, I guess, family, elitist education, put on the costume of a blue-collar worker and got into Congress without being able to put two sentences together or understand spoken language.
Yeah, I agree, except according to the movie Tropic Thunder, if you go full R word, it hurts your career. But it probably would be a very interesting role to play. I agree with you on that. And so, yeah, Mr. Fetterman, or as I call him, the first member of Limp Bizkit to enter politics. He kind of represents maybe how much the Democrats are willing to put up with, if only because of his clear sort of brain damage in the recent debate and stuff like that. He just does not look like he's ready for a very difficult job. And on the other side of the aisle, there's Herschel Walker, who I'm not going to say he's got brain damage or anything like that. It's just when he speaks, it does not make him look smart. If he doesn't speak, he's fine. So anyway, what do you guys make of this? Am I being too harsh on these two gentlemen? Is it that these people, like, that's how badly people don't want what the other party is offering, that they're willing to go with some of these characters? Because that's how
I ask something about Fetterman. So,
please,
what part of what we saw attracting the news is a result of health problems, and what is a result of him not being very charismatic or of his character?
Good question, Mark. You got anything on this?
What was that question again?
Is it brain damage?
I've heard that Fetterman had health struggles, and
yes.
Is this related with what we saw him struggling in the debates, or
yes.
Okay? So I wouldn't comment on.
He had a massive stroke, and he should be recuperating. And the smart thing that Fetterman's camp did was they held off the debate until probably a good 500,000 people had already turned in their mail-in ballots. So he probably already had a good chunk of a lead there before he was exposed in the debates as not being able to understand spoken language and having to read questions from a teleprompter, and then speaking himself is a very difficult task. The man needs to be in therapy. He needs to be getting his brain back into working order, not running a campaign and going into Congress. But that just speaks to me at the level of ends justify the means for both sides, right? I mean, the left is willing to support a candidate who can't put two sentences together, maybe thinking that he'll and they're ideologically similar. What?
No, I didn't know.
We lost you for a second, but
I didn't know if we lost you or if you all lost me. I wasn't sure.
No. We lost Mark.
Okay.
Me and Rucka, we were fine.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So I just think it's an example of ends justify the means for both sides. I think the left is willing to take the hit, assuming that his wife can carry on the ideological flag for him, and the right, wanted to invest in their anti-woke Trump, gang, and they were willing to invest in that. And so that's what I see as both sides. Herschel Walker is sort of an example of that too. These bad candidates are just what finds them is that they're against the other side, and nobody cares about their actual quality.
Yeah, and Mark, your internet connection is at about 90%. It seems. If there's any kind of Wi-Fi situation, you could give that a glance. Otherwise, we'll just wing it. Yeah, so it seems like since 2016, at least, politics has been about like who you're voting against, right? Has there been a candidate that most people in America were passionately for. I mean, I know Trump had a lot of passion on his side by some, but like widespread amounts of people voting for someone. Has that happened in a while? It could be this DeSantis character, as much as some of us might have trepidations about him. He could be kind of a unifying character because he kind of seems, on the surface, seems to embody like the best of all worlds. You know, he's anti-woke and he's not a lockdown kind of guy. He's definitely not like a vaccine mandate guy, although I think in all of the above, he's violated people's rights in the opposite direction. So he forbade businesses from requiring vaccination in their own workplace. With regards to wokeness, he's targeting businesses and basically censoring them in effect or preventing them from acting on their conscience. So he's gone the opposite way in all of those, but in a country, in a culture where generally people don't mind seeing the rights of corporations, the rights of businessmen within corporations being violated. Maybe DeSantis could be like a sort of unifying, popular candidate looking ahead. Any thoughts?
Yeah, the thought is let's not take the thunder away from the whole episode we're going to do on DeSantis, but it looks like he would be a choice which is not vote this guy so that you don't vote the guy of the other side which is worse, which is what we've seen lately. So what would be the only reason to vote some of the candidates that we mentioned today, as you said, so that the other side doesn't win? So the question is, is the quality of candidates worse because this is what the voters, that's all they are worth? Is it the candidates that we deserve? And another question is, were the candidates in the past so much better, or is it that today there is more exposure? And I'll tell you what is my theory in all this. So in football, there's what you people call soccer. There's a discussion these days that modern teams, players don't play based on a position, like the right winger, the center midfield, but they have a particular role. So what defines you is not where is your position in the field, but what is your role. And I think and in football, this works great if you do it properly, because this means that the team is very mobile and very, very flexible. But in politics, this is how it works. We don't anymore have right or left candidates, or a free market candidate, or a free trade candidate. We have candidates that position themselves somehow in the various positions around the culture wars. So I am the guy, said the person in Georgia that we mentioned. I'm the guy who has the endorsement of Trump, and also I will make some points about how I'm anti-woke. Now, anything else doesn't matter. All the gaffes, all the maybe, or even the lies, the things that are inaccurate, these things don't matter. You tick the box that, hey, you're looking for an anti-woke guy, I'm that guy, and that's good enough. Because one characteristic of today's tribalism is not only that you follow the party line, because this is what group thinking has always been. It is that you see what is the opposite line, what is the other tribe doing, and you take the opposite line. This is why you can have completely suboptimal candidates still getting the votes, because they are not the other guy. And also, Trump got an amount of votes which is very, very, very high. So we often see people who are clearly not up to the job getting a unpredictably high amount of votes. Why? Because again, everyone hates the other side so much that they would vote literally for anyone who can stand up and put three words together, even if they don't make a sentence. So this is, again, what we deserve as voters. And I wouldn't blame the quality of the politicians. I would blame our quality, because someone puts them into office. If people who are incapable, or people who don't stand for anything, they would get obliterated in elections, then the parties would not put such candidates on the ballot. So it's not about the candidates, not about the politicians. It's totally on us, I would say.
Of course, it's on us at the end of the day, meaning the culture gets the political representatives that we deserve. So now some people, they would hear you saying like, oh, these people stand for nothing. And they would point out, look, the woke people, they have an ideology, you know, and look, like, we don't want ideology. We just want common sense, you know, deal with the issues, get the job done, and other platitudes. So they would hear you say that. They say, yeah, like, we don't want politicians who, quote, stand for something. We want politicians who are going to get the job done. They're going to run the country, that are going to, you know, look out for, you know, they don't want their politicians, their representatives, to sell them out for a, you know, big business. Like, they don't want to be sold out to the lobbyists and the corporations. They also don't want to be sold out to an ideology, right? They want, so that's the way they see it. They see philosophy as the enemy, I think, a lot of average people.
Okay, then that's exactly what you will get, the type of candidates that we see. Or you will get what we see in the UK, people who, quote, get the job done, who are people who stand for absolutely nothing, and people who are going to bring you inflation, as we see these days, or they're going to bring you, as we heard yesterday, higher taxes. So if you want people who just want to, quote, get the job done, this is what getting the job done means. So it's this silly theme that I hear all the time, that, oh, we need to come together and forget our differences and meet in the middle. If I'm right and you are wrong, we should not meet in the middle. Or if I know that the other side is wrong and I don't stand for nothing, how am I going to oppose the other side? Just by saying the opposite that they say. This is not a recipe. So again, there's no surprise that we see that level of politicians, and in a way, the politicians are going to get even worse. Yesterday, I saw a tweet by a Labour Party candidate who I was almost ready to press like in half of the tweet. Half of the tweet was saying, it's not immigrants' problem, that it's not immigrants' responsibility that inflation is high. Don't blame immigrants for high prices. Don't blame immigrants for unemployment. And I said, okay, that's good. And then at the end, it said something like, blame corporate profits. And I was like, this is like a first year bad sociology student take. So this is exactly what are the politicians that you'd expect from the world that we live in. A world full of tribalism, who cannot think beyond slogans that would embarrass a second year good university student. So what better did we expect?
Yeah, and welcome back, Mark. I think your internet's probably fine. It's nothing like the one time I was glitching endlessly. Yeah, so like people, they're just tribal these days. And it wasn't quite always this bad, I don't think, but it certainly I could speak for today. People are tribal. So the way people judge, you know, the vaccine has become like a political issue, basically. Like, are you on the left or the right? The left versus right, I think, used to mean something with regards to political philosophy. You know, it was always kind of murky, but, you know, the left generally meant, you know, like more on the socialist end, and the right maybe was more on the free market end and more like conservative on the social issues. There was some kind of rough estimation. Nowadays, it's like, oh, are you vaccinated? Then you're on the left. Are you anti-vax? Then you're on the right. That's basically how people look at it these days. It's just tribalism, and it's just packages of issues, you know? It's just bundling different issues together. I don't want to speak too much about how it used to be. Like, I don't want to romanticize the past and say people used to be very philosophical. I know, you know, the namesake of this channel, Ayn Rand, was writing in her lifetime about how anti-intellectual the political scene was getting. God knows how she would, you know, make sense of what's happening today. I remember when, you know, there were like Tea Party candidates running, and people said, oh, these people are extremists, you know, they're extremists. We got to be, you know, and people don't want extremists. And some of us were like, well, maybe they're extremists in a good way. Like, they're extremely for liberty. Now, they weren't, and they all turned out to be politicians at the end of the day once they got in office. But nowadays, it's a lot easier to kind of say, yeah, avoid extremists, because everyone in the political landscape has like bad ideas. You know, the populists on the right versus the woke people on the left. So it's like, yes, avoid extremists. Now I'm like relieved to see that Americans are voting away. They're voting out and they're voting against extremists. You know, they don't want very, very populist Trumpians, and they don't want woke politicians. So like nowadays, it's like kind of relieving to see Americans rejecting so-called extremism. It's kind of an interesting thing to reflect on. Got some super chats since I'm not hearing.
Oh wait, I have one more comment
okay.
on that. You mentioned what used to be like, were the candidates better back in the day? No, but when you have an ideology, you don't even need to be that good of a candidate as a personality. So let me give you an example. In Greece, we always made fun of how the representatives of the Communist Party were like robots. They would just go and put the party line. But in a way, that's all it took. You have a party line, you knew exactly what your policy was, so you didn't have to be charismatic. These days, when there is no party line, so what is the position of the one party, let's say on free trade? No one knows. Or today it's like that, tomorrow it's like that. So in the time where there is no left and right, is not about ideology, it comes solely down to what is your personality and what is your take, or what is your hot take on the vaccines, or what is your hot take on Ukraine, you as a person. Therefore, if you are a nobody, if you're completely shallow, and if you're an empty cell, it's going to show. It's going to show 100% because there is no ideology to protect you like it was back in the day. Like if you have a fascist versus a communist, do their characters really matter? No, you know exactly what they stand for. So in a way, they're just mouthpieces. But these days, without the ideologies, when the left versus right is I'm support of this group versus I'm support of that group, although our disagreement is that I hate you on reasons that hasn't got to do with our principles, because we don't even know our principles, then the clown, the gaffer, the person who cannot put two sentences together, it's going to show, and it's going to be way more visible. So that's my explanation why we think that today we see such worse candidates, because A, it's more visible, and B, they get away with it because we're going to vote them anyway so that the other side doesn't get their own way.
Yeah, and I think Americans are just really dumb. I hate to use such flippant language, but Americans, I mean, are dumb. Not all, obviously, but like characteristically, Americans are like have a really hard time connecting things. Like they'll say, yeah, I want freedom, like I want low taxes and I want more entitlements. And like it just, but here's what makes me say this, because going back to the first election that I really paid attention to, which was Obama versus McCain way back when, 2008, and leading up to that, people were like, yeah, Obama. Okay, what do you like about Obama? He has some good ideas. All right, they said, oh, he's got some good ideas. Yeah, he's new, he's fresh, he's exciting. Okay, great. People loved Ron Paul. A lot of the same people who were into Obama liked Ron Paul. Wouldn't you think those two are opposites? What do you like about Ron Paul? Oh, he's like really good. He's for free trade. Oh, you're for free. I'm into free trade. Are you into free trade? Do you know what that means? That means corporations. That means big business. That means, you know, old white guys in suits not having the government getting between them and their paycheck. I mean, but they're just like, yeah, free trade sounds cool. Like they're just. I once saw there was a girl, and I know this is anecdotal, a girl I went to school with. She had just every bumper sticker imaginable on her crappy car. And at one part of her car, there was a Ron Paul sticker. And on another part, there was a Ralph Nader sticker. So the Green Party here and the Libertarian candidate there. It's like, it's just, yeah. Great.
Okay, I'll tell you my favorite personal people don't get it anecdote. Some years ago, not more than 4 or 5 years ago, so I was within my transition to objectivism. There was a common friend. Sorry, a friend told me that a common friend would delete me from Facebook, but then I had Facebook. And when I asked why, she said she had enough of me because I was such a leftist. And I was like, what? How is it possible that you follow me on Facebook during the years of my transition, and what you get out of this is that I'm such a leftist? So, and I was thinking that person is going to go and actually vote. One last thing on the Tea Party, because someone would say, look, you people are just on the ivory tower and you're talking theory. What was the main rallying cry of the Tea Party? That Obama was very bad and these people are, quote, socialists. So it doesn't matter what we stand for, we are for freedom. Okay. What happened to the big heroes, to the big personalities of the Tea Party? What happened to the Ted Cruz's? What happened to the people who were anti-Obama? Today, they have forgotten everything they stood for, and they want to, quote, to end censorship of big tech, and they want to make sure that we bring back, that we have good American jobs and things like that. So the people who were holding "Who is John Gold" signs in 2009 because Obama was bad, and they were not willing to engage into, okay, what do we stand for? We see them 10 years later, they're the useful idiots of Trump, and they're what Mises would call, you're all a bunch of socialists. So you became what you didn't want to become because you didn't stood for something, you just stood against something else. So when you hear Rucka saying, you have to stand for something, this is not ivory tower talk. We've seen it, and we're going to see it again. Yeah.
You have to know what you stand for. You got to have a coherent, integrated worldview. Everybody has a philosophy, whether they want it or not. We are not perceptual level animals who just live through physical stimulus. So you need to connect things. And if you don't make that effort to be consistent and to connect your principles and make sure they're consistent, you're going to end up with contradictions. You'll be incoherent and probably neurotic. Now, that right there felt like a clippable moment. Mark, we reviewed comments from the Ben Shapiro related clip that the channel had posted, and we read some of the comments last week or at some point, and everyone's attacking me there. All I said was Ben Shapiro has a dilemma. He's got Candace Owens, who's like increasingly cozy with Black Israelite type anti-Semites. On the other hand, Ben Shapiro wants a successful, strong, sort of inclusive conservative movement. He's got a dilemma on his hand. And I was attacked, and therefore the channel was attacked, like, oh, you're a leftist. Oh, you hate, like, oh, you social justice leftists think you know everything. I mean, so I could only be on the left. I could only be a leftist to be pointing out that Ben Shapiro has a problem on his hands. Anyone who's not on the left.
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
This is my everyday. The left thinks I'm on the right thinks I'm on the left, and I'm sure you guys get a bunch of this too. Nobody quite understands where you're coming from because you don't fit into their niches. Look, I think that one of the reasons the political world is so corrupt is because we're democratizing, and we're democratizing in the FDR sense of the word, where social programs become political patronage, and they get people hooked on the social programs, and then those become a constituency, and that's what they end up voting for or against in the long run. So we have I think a perfect storm of anti-intellectualism, emotionalism, sort of leading the charge in the political and intellectual realm, and a democratized political system that is all about spoil system democracy, about giving away things to people. And I just think it makes the electorate dumb. It just makes them dumb.
Yeah. And people, when you point this out, they often think this is just inherent in politics, like this is inherent in government, and therefore we should just, shrink government, but they don't really address the problem. The problem is that the government is doing more than protecting the rights of individuals. What they're doing is they're taxing these guys, regulating these guys, distributing spoils, aka entitlements, to those guys over there. This foreign lobby has their ear. This one corporation is donating to this guy's campaign, and now he owes them a favor. It's all because the government has the ability to do favors and to punish people. So, like, to punish people beyond proper prosecution for crime, for violating rights. So we need laissez-faire capitalism. I know it's a scary thought to people, but it's the neglect of capitalism that has gotten us into this mess, and it has made us dumber. Let's read some super chats.
Imagine one of these candidates having any chance if they just said, I'm going to let you free. To do, not promising things, not telling you I'm going to give you stuff. Imagine one of these people saying, I'm going to go out of the way.
Yeah, could a congressman get elected in any state that he told the electorate that he was going to refuse federal funds at every level for their state. I mean, now every state is dependent on the federal government in some way, infusing funds into that area. We can thank Franklin Delano Roosevelt for that, because he used the New Deal as a way of bullying states into the New Deal Democratic wing of politics, and now everybody's a New Dealer.
I will mention, though, before Trump became the man of the Republican Party, you had guys like Ted Cruz, like calmly debating farmers. That was like a viral clip of Ted Cruz explaining to a farmer why he's better off without subsidies and why the farming industry would be better off in a free market. So there was some hope, or there was some presence of free market liberty type principles. But let's read these super chats. I know we got to wrap soon. Marilyn with $4. Thank you. Phoeben the Integrator with $10 says, keep up the outstanding work. That's all. Ali with $5 says, no, Georgia just can't get the Georgians vote above 50%. This isn't a rare issue for us. Warnock and Walker got to go to a special runoff.
Oh, yeah, but there's a good chance that in that runoff, because he's the only he's the only option, as opposed to voting for the guy of the bad side, he will get the vote of the vast majority of Republicans, even though he's someone who is, how to put it, he's pulling over your legs, someone who is lying to you, someone who is telling you, oh, I've done this. Imagine going to a date and there's a guy who tells you, oh, I'm a doctor, and he's not a doctor. Or he says, this is a medal I got from a world Jiu-Jitsu championship, and he's never been to that championship. Like, imagine how this guy views you. He views you as, you're stupid. And by voting him, you tell him you're right.
Regina with €149. Thank you. Yeah, Mark?
I was just going to say, in what respect do you think Herschel Walker is lying?
So there was this claim that he was in the law enforcement, and turns out he was not. Or turns out that he went there for like 2 weeks to do some training, and then he said, oh, but I was part of the law enforcement. Or in a debate he showed the badge, and then there was claims that this badge was not. So you know what, I would feel offended as a candidate if someone told me, A, vote to me because I was law enforcement, and he was not. A, this is an affront to people who are actually law enforcement. B, it tells me that he considers his voters stupid.
So he's the Steven Seagal of politics, is what you're saying.
Sorry?
He's the Steven Seagal of politics, is what you're saying.
No, because I've heard that Steven Seagal is legit as a martial artist anyway. So that
he's a legit Aikido guy, but you know, the law enforcement stuff, the work, I mean, he's claimed to be working black ops for the government and the CIA. I mean, he goes in that direction.
Oh, okay.
He's probably going to see this and kick my ass, but it's he's a sketchy dude.
Well,
I grew up with Steven Seagal movies. It's very difficult for me to say anything bad about him.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I think when he showed Aikido to the world, it was very stunning. It was something we hadn't seen ever before, and it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I think a number of women have come forward saying that Herschel Walker paid for their abortions when he had gotten them pregnant. So he's, in that sense, he's lying by saying I'm anti-abortion, and meanwhile, when it's inconvenient, when a pregnancy is plaguing him, he has no problem getting an abortion. It's allegedly.
Yeah.
Marilyn with $2 says government schools cripple critical thinking. And I think she's referring to what I said. I said Americans are dumb. I don't mean, maybe be clear, I don't mean that like that's part of being American, like that's inherent in a prosperous and basically free country. The America's founders, they were highly intelligent, intellectual, and they were influenced by very intellectual thinkers in history. So it's the post-founding trends in America's philosophical schools and universities that I think made us this way. Now we struggle.
I have a talk about this in Romania on Friday, on why it looks like dumb.
So if your internet was cutting out. What's the topic of the talk?
Why people, the topic of the talk is the superpower of independent thinking. And my claim, my elevator pitch is that in a world where people don't think for themselves, if you think for yourself, you're way already ahead of the curve. Is going to do wonders for your personal life, for your career, and all that stuff.
Nice. Lucky.
Maybe not your career, but certainly for your personal life and
also for your career. Also for your career.
Depends on your career. And it depends on how vocal you are about being an independent thinker. And it depends on the passion that other people have for their collective if you are against that collective.
Well, even if let's say hypothetically you're an actor and voicing your views on certain issues could get you blackballed, you still need to think independently about which job to audition for and which manager to work with. I mean, I would still think independent thinking is a huge asset with regards to your career.
I think with most careers, yes, but to the extent that your opinion can be melded with your image and your brand, and in today's irrational world, you risk quite a bit when you come out as an independent thinker. But
I'll tell you how my talk goes, and we can discuss it next week.
I think it's a risk worth taking, and I think essentially you're right, Nikos, in that when you have a clear epistemology, life is clearer and better, and in a sense, you might transition away from one career to another because of the risks, and that's fine.
Ashley Shrugged with 199 says, people stand for nothing and fall for anything. Yep. I think it was Jesus who said that. I'm kidding. It was probably like Martin Luther King.
That was Jesus.
It was Gandhi.
No,
Gandhi,
wait. I
John Lennon, or MLK. It's one of those.
No. I use this in a New Idea Live recently, so I should have known who said it.
You should, but you don't. Kiana Pellegrino with $10 says, hello all, with a smiling face. All right, on that happy note, fellas, there will be a better day. There will be a tomorrow. There's my inspiring bumper sticker. The country is in good shape, I think, all things considered. The American people, they're not on board with wokeness. They're, I think, very clearly tired of Trump. And now is like kind of like the resting time, in my perspective, to just sit back and just watch Trump and the Republicans go at each other. But I will probably end up eating my words when Trump actually does become the nominee and president again.
Well, he's making an announcement tomorrow, isn't he? On November 15th. Isn't that when he's making his big announcement?
Yeah, but he said this 3 times in the last 2 weeks. So
let's hope he's announcing his retirement.
We'll see.
He did say very soon, probably you'll be very happy with what I say. I think tomorrow is the day, unless there happens to be a God out there who decides to, I don't know, end the world. That would be a little bit better. No? All right. Okay. I'm just stop with the filibuster. I'm telling myself. Oh, yeah. Joni Spinoza, the member, asked if we've seen the SNL Dave Chappelle monologue. I think tomorrow I'm doing a solo episode, so I might actually react to that monologue. That sounds like a fun time. So catch us tomorrow. And then coming up today at 7 p.m. UK time, it's the premiere of The Briefly Objective with Nikos Sotirakopoulos on the Soviet Union, the worst place for a communist. Link
hey,
in the
Nikos,
chat.
You should do a show on whether or not public housing in Romania and Lithuania and the former Soviet Union and the Scandinavian states is actually up to par. If it's good, if it is if it's at the level of where a private market should be, or if it's moral. Because I've been arguing with a guy for the last 3 days on Twitter who's claiming that, he's claiming, hey, in Singapore, 80% of the people live in public housing. Forget that they've been pushed into public housing and have no choice, and that private housing is probably too expensive. But he thinks it's moral and just, and I've been going back and forth with him,
The best thing that ever happened to public housing was when Margaret Thatcher told people you can buy it so it can stop being any more public housing. But since you mentioned it, just to remind people that I also have a YouTube channel and a TikTok channel, and I post sometimes on TikTok rants and on YouTube shorts, or every now and then, if I have time, some longer videos. So you can also follow me there.
How's your TikTok going? You get any?
For an objectivist, very good. Otherwise, for a TikTok influencer, not good at all.
No? Okay. All right. And then at 9 p.m. UK time today, it's Ask Harry Anything on HBTV with Harry Binswanger. So that's coming up today. Looking forward to that. Thank you all for joining us today. I know Nikos has a hard out that we
that was 6 minutes ago.
6 minutes ago. You can always tell who's got the real job and who just kind of like wants to hang out and talk philosophy until we run out. Anyway, thank you for joining us today. And we'll be back tomorrow for the Daily Objective, and goodbye.
Peace.